So I got an article here. This is I've got an article, and this article is you could read it, but instead of you reading it, I'm gonna read it for you. So this is from CBS News. Stimulus checks should continue until COVID-19 is history, senators tell Biden. I wonder which senators are telling Biden that. So let's read. Some Senate Democrats are urging President Joe Biden to overhaul the nation's approach to handing out stimulus payments. The direct financial relief deployed by Congress to help millions of Americans affected by the economic collapse that followed the coronavirus pandemic. I'm so sorry. Instead of providing discrete rounds of stimulus checks that are negotiated each time and arrive months apart, the federal government should provide recurring checks to help families get by until COVID-19 is over, the 10 lawmakers said in a letter released on Tuesday. The request comes as the Senate takes up Mr. Biden's $1.9 trillion relief package this week, which would include a third round of stimulus checks that would direct $1,400 to millions of eligible Americans. Congress distributed $1,200 last year under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act, and sent an additional $600 payment in December as part of a broader stimulus bill. The senators didn't specify an amount they are seeking for monthly direct aid. I wonder which senators. Like, they could be in the headline, but they're not, so I guess we'll have to keep reading to find out. The idea of issuing recurring stimulus payments as a way to speed up the economic recovery has been championed by progressives and some Democrats. I love how those are two separate groups. Progressives and some Democrats. It's not like the progressives are No, they're just... In January, more than 50 House members urged the Biden administration to back a proposal for $2,000 monthly payments until the pandemic ends. And this is something that I want to talk about is who gets to decide when the pandemic ends? I got another thing I'm going to cover where Biden says he's got vaccines so everyone can get vaccinated by the end of May. So when everyone's vaccinated, is the pandemic all of a sudden over? Like, because I don't think that that's the case. I think that the pandemic will be over when we are out of the economic depression. And again, there were numerous studies that said that like a significant chunk, millions of the jobs that were lost throughout the last year aren't coming back. They've been replaced by automation. They've been kind of, gotten rid of, consolidated. So when is the pandemic over? Are they just going to try to vaccinate us and then say, you're on your own, kid? Because that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like this is probably going to be the last stimulus that we're going to get. I feel like Joe Biden is going to try to delay it as long as possible. Because if he were to have gotten it done in January 23rd or whatever, right? Which, again, I know, reconciliation, I know, right? But then it would be more likely that we need another round. So I think that they're purposefully delaying this as long as they can to try to put it smack dab in the middle of when they plan on vaccinating everyone. And then they're just going to say, oh, the pandemic's over. You're on your own, Jack. That's what I feel like is going to happen. Supporters of the idea point out that financial hardship remains widespread around the U.S. almost a full year after COVID-19 effectively shuttered the economy. Despite the ongoing recovery, a third of adults are struggling to pay their bills, while employers have slashed roughly 10 million jobs from their payrolls during the crisis, according to an analysis by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. The decades of research on stimulus checks back up the argument that much of this is spent, which helps stimulate the economy. And sources like the census show there is an immense need for more funding despite the fitful recovery, said Claudia Sam, an economist who has worked at the Federal Reserve and the Washington Center for Equitable Growth. She added, the reason we aren't in the 1933 world where things were really bad is because the federal government and Federal Reserve stepped in. But we aren't out of the woods yet. That's correct. I can agree with that. Again, God fucking imagine if we were still on like the gold standard or something, like Jesus Christ, right? The senators who signed the letter, including Bernard Sanders of Vermont, Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, and Ron Wyden of Oregon, argue that aid such as enhanced unemployment benefits hasn't reached every family hurt by the economic crunch. Again, if you were, let's say, doing a gig work, like you're saying, you're driving Uber or Lyft or doing DoorDash or something, right? And let's say your car broke down, right? And, whoops, your car broke down. Well, you can't qualify for unemployment because you're not an employee. Therefore, you're fucked, and then you lose your house. And then, you're now just letting the clock tick on the eviction moratorium. Now, again, also, keep in mind, we have not had a rent moratorium. We have had an eviction moratorium. So as soon as the eviction moratorium is lifted, there are plenty of families out there that owe $5,000 to $10,000 or more in back rent payments, and the only reason they haven't been evicted is because of the moratorium. There should have been a rent moratorium. There should have been a subsidization, yes, something like that. Jesus Christ, right? Of rent. They should have paid landlords or paid people directly, and they could pay whatever way they want to do it. But again, $1,400, no matter which way you crack it, isn't going to help you get out of a $5,000 hole, right? So this is another huge problem we need to take into consideration. Millions do not qualify for unemployment insurance after seeing their hours reduced, switching to lower paying jobs, or temporarily leaving the workforce to care for their family members during the pandemic. They wrote in a letter, direct payments are crucial for supporting struggling families who aren't reached by unemployment insurance. $1,400 pushback? Still, such arguments are unlikely to gain traction among congressional Republicans and even some moderate Democrats, given that many have already voiced opposition to the $1,400 checks that are part of Mr. Biden's American Rescue Plan. Some lawmakers have also called for the third round of stimulus checks to be distributed to fewer households by focusing on lower-income Americans. Or, get this, you could give it to everyone, and then on tax season, right, you get it back. I know, right? So instead of spending millions and millions of dollars means testing and checking people's incomes, you could just give it to everyone, save money, and then get it back next year. But I know that little big brain, some dumb bitch in her fucking bedroom can think of a plan that's more intelligent than all of the Senate. I mean, I know, right? I'm crazy, but, whatever. Under the American Rescue Plan, a person's income is the chief determinant of whether they'll get a check, as well as the payment amount, similar to the previous two rounds of stimulus checks. Single people could receive as much as $1,400 each, while married couples filing jointly could receive $2,800. Only individuals earning up to $75,000 a year would get the full payments, as would married couples with incomes up to $150,000 a year. For incomes above those thresholds, payment amounts would decline, phasing out completely for single individuals earning above $100,000. Now again, this is still based on the last tax year. So at this point, it's 2019 tax year. So imagine, let's say you're making $80,000 a year, right? And you lose your job, and then you get $1,200, and then you get fucking $600. But you've got the fucking $9,000 of back rent payments, and then now Joe Biden's like, you're a little too rich for me, Jack. What? Right? Again, this whole situation is just disastrous. Some lawmakers have cited research that shows higher income families are rebounding well from the pandemic's economic impact as a rationale for lowering those income thresholds. Given that debate, many lawmakers are unlikely to support recurring stimulus payments. Again, that's called genocide. If you just say, fuck the poor, you don't get jack shit because some rich person in Miami Beach might have a little bit too much money in their bank account, I got news for you, Jack. You're a piece of shit, okay? Anyway, you can read the rest of this if you'd like. I'm not going to, there's only a couple of those left, but, fuck it. Yeah, so the stimulus thing is a huge disaster. We need $2,000 a month recurring back to February of 2020. So what that means, let me bust out my calculator here. So busting out the calculator. How many months has it been since last February? Let's say 12, right? Times 2,000, right? That gives us a solid $24,000. Now I guess we'll, turn down the 1,200, turn down the 600, right? All right. So what they need to do, they already plan on giving us 14, so I'll be nice. So what they need to do is give every American citizen, regardless of their income, $20,800. That's what they need to do. Anything less than that is garbage. It's a bad deal, folks. And you know what we do with bad deals, right?
Bad deal, should have never been thought of. And where it should have stopped is at the deal standpoint, where they thought about it.